Back once again with this Sony radio. Bit of a delay since the last video. Life got in the way, travel happened. Can't quite remember where I got to. As far as I remember, I got it working, I put it back together, it stopped working. So let's power it up. Hissing, nothing on the, there is something on the display. It's very, very faint and a bit intermittent. And it's just died. Lovely, lovely intermittent faults. There were comments on the previous video, thank you for those, saying it's probably still a power issue. I think based on this quick test, I agree. I suspect it's those sprung metal contacts are not actually making contact. So I think I'm just going to solder some wires and see if that makes a difference. Right, got the radio apart again. That was a bit of a faff. I'd completely forgotten how it came apart. Got the screws out but couldn't remember where the latch is and everything, and forgot that the antenna connector down the side has the wedge open. So I think what I'm planning to do is get the board up again, and there's the sprung metal posts on the back. I think I'm just going to use some nasty aluminium solder that sticks to everything. Use that to solder to the sprung steel, as that should solder quite easily, and just put some wires in. So I'll leave the sprung steel contacts in place, but won't be relying on those to make the connection. So let's get the board up. Right, with the board out, which was too much of a faff to do on camera, it's getting clips and things. I think I've shown it once in the first video how to do it. I'm looking, so where the power connects is to where I patched up part of the track that corroded, and here, and there's also a power connection here. So these come off of, zoom down a bit so it's possible to see. These pieces are sprung loaded steel here, which are really quite a poor way of doing it. So I'm going to attempt to get some solder stuck to the sprung steel, and then I'll just run some thin wire over between sort of here and the circuit board where the power goes, and see if that resolves the issue. I can't find the usual soldering tip I use with this solder, so I'm just using my standard soldering tip. I'll have to give it a good clean afterwards. This metal really doesn't want to tin. No, even the aluminium solder doesn't want to stick to this steel. I'll give it a bit of a scrub, see if I can get anything to bite onto it, and come back with a success story or otherwise. Okay, so that was an utter failure. It's the first time I've ever had this stuff not at least wet some amount to something, and usually once you've got a little bit of wetting, I've been able to follow it up. I've been able to follow it up with some normal solder and make a usable connection. So given that's a total failure, I think I might go back. So the idea I had before to make contacts to the batteries when I was just trying to replace using these batteries was just use these as spacers with some copper tape and some wires soldered on. I might do the same idea, put some of the copper flashing tape down by the battery contacts at each end, solder wires onto that, and then snake the wires around to the PCB. So I think that's the next attempt. Just going to use some vintage RS hookup wire, thin stuff, but this is not exactly high current, so it should be more than good enough. I've wedged some tape down in the corner here. I don't actually need to stick it in there. The pressure of the battery spring when there's a battery in there will keep it secure. Let's not use the aluminium solder for this. And just tin the wire I'm attaching. Oops, I'm not trying to look through the camera to do this. Yep, solid enough connection, so I'll just do the same with all the other terminals. So just a quick look at how I've done this. Not the neatest job in the world, but a bit of copper tape, a couple of wires soldered on, and this piece is wedged down. It's not, this piece is not actually stuck, it's just down in the springs, so as when the battery goes in, it should compress the spring enough to make contact with the copper. And that one goes there. That's the idea anyway. Let's just tack these wires on. Yep, good enough. I cut these wires a bit on the long side. We don't need them quite so long. The soldering on the tip, I might stand some chance of soldering. If this works, I'll go through and touch up the solder joints better. Just tin the wires first. That's made a better job. And I can't stop too short, damn it. Oh well, make the best of it. Okay, that's various wires snaking around. Get the board snapped back into place and then see if it works. Right, well, I've just got the radio, got the circuit board clipped back in, and the case just on the top. It's currently operational. I can tune. The display is incredibly faint. That could be the D-cell batteries I'm using are just crap. So it's very possible they are dead. I'll try running it off an external power supply, but it's tunable, and if you get the right angle on the display you can see what it's reading. So let's just try entering another frequency. Yeah, it tuned. Didn't exactly tune the one I tried. Let's try 5, 0, 4. Yeah, it is tuning. The keypad's a bit sticky. I think when it's all clipped back together, it should be better. Well, if ever there was an advert for not counting your chickens before they hatch, it's this radio. Clip the case back on, immediately stopped working. So I thought, okay, these batteries are dead. So I put a spacer in so they're not actually making contact. Was feeding it via the external battery tap. And there's a short somewhere in the radio now. It wants to draw more than half an amp. So it'd be really handy to have one of those thermal imaging cameras and see what's getting hot. Maybe. Right. Come back to it later. Got other things I need to do today. I was hoping this would be a quick win and just finish the project off. Right, back again with this radio. I'm getting more and more convinced it's cursed. I think in the very last clip I said there was some sort of short and it was drawing half an amp. I took the lid off again. Now I'm getting nothing on the display, but it's now only drawing about 250 milliamps, which I think is about right for this radio. I need to check the details again. I know it's fairly power hungry. It's not obviously receiving anything. Coming round to the thought there's probably a bad connection or solder joint or somewhere. It seems to be up in this corner of the radio. It's probably not going to do it on camera, but if I was tapping it in the right place I could occasionally get the screen to come on. So I might just put this one back together for now and get back to it another time. It's frustrating me that I can't fix it. Flashes of success here and there, but intermittent and infrequent. I think I need to find something full of germanium transistors and have a go on that for a while. Right, cup of tea and a think, and it's pretty obvious what's gone wrong. These ribbon cables that are the board-to-board connect between the front panel, which is up here, and the radio proper, are crispy and horrible, and they're not quite long enough to lay the radio down flat like I've been trying to do. So what's happened is they have pulled out their plug-ins at this end, and they're soldered in at this end. Well, beeping this one out with a meter shows only about half of the wires are now connected. This one, I think there's only 2 of the 6 are connected. So I need to get this board out so I can get to the other side of this. Put some fresh ribbon cable in and see if I can make something which will plug into there and be low profile enough. So step 1 is figuring out how this comes out. Okay, still trying to get this board out. I desoldered this wire from over in this corner. This is more for my own note keeping. So those two came from there. And there's a resistor here and 4 ribbon connections. I can't see anything else holding the board down, but it seems to be stuck in this corner. The top is free. If I unzoom a bit, the top is free. The bottom seems to want to come up. It's like there's something holding it around here. Don't know what that is. I can't see anything. Just wonder if it's this big solder blob here. Is that a big wire to something else further down? That could be what's holding it in place. Might have to go read the manual. So in the end, it was an educated guess. The manual said that this point here and this point here were connected to case ground, and that seemed to be where it was being held down, so just unsoldered those. This ball pops up. I won't tilt it all the way back because I don't want to break any more wires. But might just be able to see that there are broken wires here. So that's what I'm intending to re-solder. I'll get some ribbon cable and replace both of these. They both seem to be broken. The question is, do I have any ribbon cable? Let's dig around. I think I'll finish some more tea first. So I found some 14-way ribbon cable. So the plan is to replace this and this with this, which is infinitely more flexible and hasn't aged as badly as this stuff, which is sort of aging worse than a synchronous spectrum computer membrane, keyboard membrane. So I'm going to desolder these. I've marked up which are the pads which are actually connected. Get this out the way, prep the ends of this, and then I'll find some way of connecting it over here. This is where previous videos I took and photographs I've taken in the process will make sure I get it in the right place. Fingers crossed. Well, you'd be pleased to know I cut a considerable amount of swearing as I was trying to get this soldered. The pitch spacing on the ribbon cable doesn't match the pitch spacing I was trying to solder to. One of the pads lifted. It was generally not a wonderful experience to be soldering to that. Anyway, that's one done. So now the trick is I need to replace this one. But this one folds over, so yeah, and then I need to check how it goes into there. So it's less straightforward than replacing this one. I just need to figure out how I'm going to terminate the ends of this cable properly to get it into the board. I've got somewhere some very low profile connectors that may or may not fit the spacing. These are the 0.1 inch low profile. Don't know. Yeah, the connector it's got to go into does seem to be a standard 0.1 inch, so it might work. I may just be able to bodge one of 0.1 inch header in. Yeah, make it work. Get the other end soldered up, get the other connector cable soldered up first. That's the plan. Right, I've done a bit more soldering, fair amount more swearing at this, but think it's working. So I've now got this ribbon cable connected up to these pads here, and this ribbon cable is back on these pads. I'm going to do a beep test just to check the soldering's okay and there's no shorts, and then I'll put the whole thing back together, find all the other connections that need making. These ones down here getting into place. There's definitely some shorts there that need tidying up. This ribbon cable has to go back here, that has to go back there, and then I need to get the ends of these cables over here. Get the shot. Yeah. Ends of the cables need to go in there. That's the bit I need to figure out next. Right, onwards and upwards. All of the connections are beeped out successfully. There's no obvious shorts, so I'm going to solder up the rest of this, and then figure out the plan for terminating the ends and getting those wired in. Right, it's a day or so later from the last clip, back yet again with a Sony radio. If you made it this far in the video and you decide to skip ahead to see if I actually fix this, could you jump back here and let me know if I do? Otherwise, if I don't fix it, I'll just give up, and it'd be nice to have a bit more advanced information. Anyway, going to go with some 0.1 headers which fit down in this connector. I've just checked, and so the cable orientation red stripe should go to pin 1 up here. So solder that to that to the other end of it, plug it in, hope it doesn't short, give it a test. That's the plan. Still trying to make up a connector to connect these two boards together properly. The older ribbon cable was just really nasty and degrading. I did solder up something, but it was absolutely horrific. I'll stick a picture in here. And now I've come back and soldered up a better looking cable. So yeah, that should work. One thing I did do, let's zoom down so it's visible. I've put a pin header on here instead of soldering the ribbon cable directly to the board, so I can go in with a nice fine pin header which we'll just plug in there. Hopefully it doesn't all take up too much room. I think there's enough space in there to fold a bit of cable over and make it work. So I'll carry on with this and come back when it's working. Right, this is going to be the death or glory test. I've put the ribbon cable connections in. I've checked the orientation of the connections seems to match previous videos and photos I took. Annoyingly, I didn't think, or I didn't take, I thought to take it, but I didn't take an actual image with the original ribbon cable in place. So it was so obvious exactly what happened. So what I'm intending to do is put some batteries in it and then get it running. Well, I'll put the memory backup battery AA's in it, and then I'll go off the bench power supply for the rest. So back shortly for the smoke test. Right, death or glory. Let's find the power switch and hope something comes up on the display. The current limit in power supply has just gone in the current limit, but I did have the current turned down quite low. We have ticking, but there is nothing on the display. Oh, that's a weird one. I turn the power supply off and the display comes on. I turn the power supply on and the display goes off. This radio is cursed. Well, that was with 9 volts on the radio. Power supply off, display comes on. Trying to get the glare of the light off a bit. Right. So radio is off, power supply on, radio on. Nothing. Power supply off. Cursed. It's cursed. I've just knocked something and it's upset it. It's trying to do something. Ah, I knocked off the main battery connector. It's going to be doing something weird. If I hold it case in exactly the right place, the display comes on. So we go to FM mode. 100 FM. It works.
Reports of torchlights and property, potential break-in, over.
Okay. Let's go back to...
Evening, you're shining.
I was just getting a glass of water.
Go back to AM for the moment.
Oh yeah, I got a £3 cinema ticket through.
Five. Well, it does seem to be tuning. I think there's probably still a bad connection to the display. Yeah, something weird going on with this radio. I'll keep pottering away and see if I can fix the bad connection. Well, as you can hear, it's sort of working. It's picking up a load of noise off the bench, and if I hold the case in just the right place, the display works. We can tune, and it does actually tune, and it's sort of receiving. So it's interesting. Go up to FM. It remembers where it was last tuned. I'm going to go 98. Let's tune away from the music. So it's sort of working. I think there's still a bad connection somewhere. And every so often the power supply goes in the current limit, so probably got a short circuit on the... Yeah. Just where I'm powering it around the back of the radio, the wires were shorting. It works sometimes. think I'm going to put this one on the shelf now. I'll button it back up and just see if it does actually behave when all the screws are torqued down properly. But then I think this is going on the shelf for another time when I've got a bit more time to fix things. I've got a nice 1950 or 58 vintage French radio I want to look at next. That should be a bit more enjoyable than the endless fault finding on this one, and still not having a very good radio at the end of it, and one that you've got to hold the screen in the right place. So fingers crossed, one more section at the end of this and it's all alive. If not, at least all the screws will be back in, all the ones I can find anyway, and it'll go on the shelf till I have more time. Right, this is going to be the wrap up for it now. It's still doing some incredibly odd behaviour. Maybe it's normal behaviour for this radio, but I don't know. If I don't have main power supply to it, I've just had a horrible thought as well. I've been running this off 9 volts. It's a 6 volt radio. Well, it didn't seem to make any difference unless I've actually cooked it. I don't know. For some reason I had it in my head this was a 9 volt radio. 6 volts. There's only 3 batteries in it. Idiot. Anyway, with the main power supply off but the radio on, it's running off of the memory backup batteries. And example, in AM mode I can set a frequency and it tunes to it, but without the main power on you get no volume. Turn main power on, you get sound, but the display goes away, which is a bit weird. If I turn main power off again, I can flick up to FM. It remembers the last frequency you had set. I can set 98. Never sure where the decimal point is in this. 98.5. Oh, there you go. So if I wanted to maybe listen to Capital in here. The receiver doesn't seem to be overly good. I know there's a strong station there. It was picking up earlier, so probably if I move the radio around, get rid of some of the electrical noise around here, it might pick it up better. But if I turn the main power off again, it lost where we were tuned. Okay. Okay, it's saving where it's tuned. Very weird. I'm going to put this back on the shelf and do a more enjoyable thing instead. I mean, it was a resurrection, really. I got it to the stage where it's doing some receiving. It's probably more fixable, but not without vastly much more time invested in it. And it's stopped being an enjoyable repair now. It's just become a chore. So giving up until I get really, really bored. But hopefully this will be useful for somebody. There's a few of these radios out there and they'll seem to have a similar issue. So check the battery contacts where they press onto the board, and the display ribbon cable is probably knackered as well. Right, cheerio. Next one will be an old French radio.